If you are tired of being broke, if you are sick and tired of watching your bank account bleed dry every single month, if you are exhausted from working yourself to the bone only to have nothing left by the time the next paycheck arrives, then sit down, be still, and listen to what I am about to tell you, because this might be the most important thing anyone has ever said to you about money. You know the feeling. The quiet, lingering dread that you are falling behind. You look around, and it seems like everyone else has figured it out. They're moving forward, making money, building lives, finding peace. And you? You feel like you are standing still in a rushing river, watching the water pass you by, unable to move your feet. You tell yourself that you are just resting. You tell yourself that you are waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity, the right burst of motivation. But deep down, in the quiet hours of the night, when the world goes silent, the truth whispers to you. You are not resting. You are paralyzed. You are not lazy. You are trapped in an invisible prison of your own making, and you do not even realize you hold the key. Nobody tells you why you keep starting things and never finishing them. Nobody tells you why you sabotage your own success just when things start going well. But today, I will. If you give me your time today, if you stay with me until the very end, you will understand exactly why you feel left behind in life. I will reveal the silent habits that are destroying your future, and I will give you the exact tools to break those chains today. You will not leave this video the same person you were when you clicked on it. That is my promise to you. You were not born to be poor. Let me say that again. You were not born to be poor. But somewhere along the way, someone taught you how to stay poor. They didn't do it with cruelty. They didn't do it with bad intentions. They did it with silence. They did it by never telling you what I am about to tell you right now. If you have ever laid in bed at night staring at the ceiling, wondering why you can never get ahead, if you have ever felt that cold knot in your stomach when an unexpected bill arrives, and you just know that you cannot cover it, if you have ever watched someone younger than you, less experienced than you, less talented than you, somehow living a life that feels completely out of your reach, then you need to understand something. It is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Nobody is coming to save you. No government, no windfall, no lucky break, no inheritance from a relative you have never met. Nobody is riding over the hill with a bag of gold with your name on it. And the moment you accept that, the moment you truly accept that in the deepest, most honest part of your soul, something shifts, something wakes up. And that thing that wakes up, that is the part of you that has the power to change everything. Now, I'm going to tell you exactly why you are still broke. Not the surface reasons, not the reasons financial gurus shout at you from their rented Lamborghinis. I'm talking about the real reasons, the ones hiding in the dark. The ones buried so deep inside your daily habits, your beliefs, your relationships, and your identity that you cannot even see them anymore. They are invisible chains, and today, link by link, I am going to help you break every single one. By the time this is over, you will understand money in a way that 95% of people never will. You will see the traps that have been holding you down your entire life, and more importantly, you will know exactly how to climb out. So stay with me. Every single minute of this matters. Do not skip ahead. Do not leave early, because the one thing you skip might be the one thing that was meant to change your life. My name is Elder Kael. I have walked this earth for a long time. I have slept on floors. I have eaten meals I was ashamed of. I have worn shoes with holes in them and smiled at people like everything was fine. I have also sat at tables where the bill was more than I used to make in a month. I have signed checks that would have made my younger self faint. I have built things. I have lost things. I have been so poor I couldn't afford dignity, and I have been wealthy enough to understand that money alone does not buy peace. But here's what those years taught me. Poverty is not just a condition, it's a system. It's a series of invisible traps that catch good people, hard-working people, smart people, and hold them down. And unless someone shows you where those traps are, you'll keep stepping in them, over and over, year after year, decade after decade, until one day you wake up old and wonder where your life went. I do not want that for you. So let me show you the traps. The first trap is the most dangerous one because it doesn't look like a trap at all. It looks like comfort. It looks like normalcy. It looks like just the way things are. I call it the earned reward trap. Let me tell you a story. When I was 26 years old, I got a raise at a job I had been working for 3 years. It wasn't a big raise, maybe an extra $200 a month, but I remember the feeling. I felt like I had finally made it, like the world was acknowledging my effort. And do you know what I did with that extra money? I upgraded my life. I moved to a slightly nicer apartment. I started eating out a little more. I bought new clothes. I upgraded my phone plan. Within 2 months, every single cent of that raise was already spoken for. I was making more money, but I was just as broke as before. Maybe even more broke, because now my expenses were higher. And that right there is the trap. Most people, the moment they earn a little more, spend a little more. They feel like they deserve it. They tell themselves, I worked hard for this, I earned it. And they're right, they did work hard, they did earn it. But deserving something and it being wise to have it are two completely different things. Here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. Every time you increase your income and immediately increase your lifestyle, you are running on a treadmill. You are moving your legs, but going nowhere. The scenery changes, the apartment looks nicer, the car is newer, the restaurants are fancier, but your financial position is exactly the same. You are still one bad month away from crisis. You are still one emergency away from panic. You have the appearance of progress without any of the substance. I stayed in that trap for nearly a decade. I would earn more and spend more, earn more and spend more, and every time I would feel a brief moment of satisfaction followed by the same familiar anxiety, the same checking of the account balance, the same low hum of financial stress that never, ever went away. And here's what made it worse. I looked around and everyone else was doing the same thing. My friends, my coworkers, my neighbors. So it felt normal. It felt like this was just what life was. You work, you spend, you worry, you repeat. That's the curse of the earned reward trap. It feels normal because everyone is caught in it. The escape is simple to say, but difficult to do. When your income increases, your lifestyle must stay the same. Not forever, but long enough for the gap between what you earn and what you spend to become real, meaningful, and powerful. That gap is not just savings. That gap is freedom. That gap is the space where your future begins to change. Every dollar in that gap is a soldier working for you instead of against you. When I finally understood this, I got a raise and I did nothing with it. I kept the same apartment, the same food, the same habits, and I watched that money stack up. It was not glamorous. It was not exciting. Nobody on social media would have been impressed. But 6 months later, when my car broke down and the repair was $1,200, I paid it without flinching. I did not panic. I did not borrow. I did not lose sleep. And that feeling, that calm, that quiet power was worth more than any restaurant meal or new jacket I could have bought. So ask yourself right now, when was the last time your income went up and your expenses stayed the same? When was the last time you said, I could afford this, but I'm choosing not to? If you cannot remember, then you were in the trap, and now you know. The second trap is one that people will argue with me about. They will defend it. They will make excuses for it because this trap feels like love. I call it the loyalty tax. Let me explain. There are people in your life right now who are costing you money, not because they are stealing from you, not because they are bad people, but because your loyalty to them is keeping you financially chained. I had a friend named Marcus. Marcus and I grew up together. He was like a brother to me. We went through hard times together, laughed together, built memories together. But Marcus had a habit. Every few months, Marcus needed money. Sometimes it was rent, sometimes it was a car repair, sometimes it was just to get through the week. And every single time I gave it to him because he was my brother, because that is what you do. Over the course of about 5 years, I gave Marcus somewhere close to $8,000. I never counted it at the time because counting felt disloyal. It felt like putting a price tag on our friendship. But here's what I eventually realized. Marcus never changed. His situation never improved. My money was not helping him. It was enabling him. I was funding his ability to avoid the pain that would have forced him to grow. And in the process, I was draining myself. Every dollar I gave Marcus was a dollar stolen from my own future. Now let me be clear. I'm not saying never help anyone. I'm not saying be cold or selfish. I'm saying there's a difference between helping someone climb and carrying someone who refuses to walk. And if you're honest with yourself right now, you know exactly who I'm talking about. There's someone in your life, maybe a family member, maybe a friend, maybe a partner, who consistently costs you money. And every time you give, a small voice inside you whispers, "This is not right." But you silence that voice because of guilt, because of obligation, because of love. The loyalty tax does not just show up as giving people money. It shows up in other ways too. It shows up when you stay in a neighborhood you can't afford because your family is there. It shows up when you keep going to events and gatherings that drain your wallet because you don't want to be the one who says no. It shows up when you co-sign a loan for someone you already know is unreliable, but the word no feels too heavy to say. Every one of those moments is a tax on your loyalty, and you are the one paying it. The escape from this trap requires something that feels uncomfortable. It requires boundaries. It requires being willing to disappoint people you love in the short term so that you can build something meaningful in the long term. It requires understanding that you cannot pour from an empty cup, that you cannot save someone else while you yourself are drowning. When I finally stopped giving Marcus money, he was angry. He called me selfish. He said I had changed. And he was right. I had changed. I had changed because I had to. Because the old version of me was headed toward a broke, exhausted, resentful future. And the new version of me, the one who said no, who set boundaries, who chose his own financial survival over someone else's comfort, that version of me is the reason I'm standing here talking to you today. Marcus, by the way, figured things out. It took him a while, but when I stopped being his safety net, he found his own footing. That's what usually happens. When you stop carrying people, they learn to walk. If you're learning something real here, and I believe you are, then subscribe to this channel. Not for me, I gain nothing from it, but for yourself, because lessons like this can change your life. And the next time you need to hear something hard and true, this channel will be here for you. Now, the third trap, and this one cuts deep. I call it the shame spiral. Most people who are broke don't talk about it, not honestly. They joke about it sometimes. They say things like, "I'm so broke right now," with a little laugh, but they never sit down and actually look at the numbers. They never open every single bill, add up every single debt, face every single dollar they owe. And the reason they don't do this is not laziness, it's shame. Being broke in a world that worships money makes you feel like a failure. It makes you feel like something is wrong with you, like you're less than, like you're broken.
And that shame, that deep and burning shame, does something terrible. It makes you avoid the very thing you need to confront. I've been there. I remember a time in my 30s when I had credit card debt, a car payment I was behind on, a phone bill and collections, and money I owed to 3 different people. And you know what I did? I avoided it. I stuffed the letters in a drawer. I let calls go to voicemail. I told myself I would deal with it later. I pretended it didn't exist. Because every time I thought about it, the shame hit me like a wave and I couldn't breathe. It was easier to ignore it. It was easier to distract myself. It was easier to numb myself with whatever temporary pleasure I could find so that I didn't have to sit with the weight of how bad things had gotten. But here's what shame does when you let it drive. It makes the problem worse. Every day you avoid looking at your finances is a day that interest accumulates, that late fees pile up, that opportunities disappear. Shame tells you to hide, but hiding is what keeps you trapped. It's a spiral. You're broke, so you feel shame. You feel shame, so you avoid your finances. You avoid your finances, so you stay broke, and the cycle just spins and spins and spins. I broke the spiral one night at 2 in the morning. I couldn't sleep. I got up, turned on the kitchen light, sat down at the table, and I wrote every single thing down. Every debt, every bill, every dollar I owed. The total number was horrifying. I won't tell you what it was because the number doesn't matter. What matters is that I looked at it. I sat with it. I did not flinch. I stared at that piece of paper and I said, okay, this is where I am. Now what am I going to do about it? And in that moment, something changed. The shame didn't disappear completely, but it loosened its grip. Because shame thrives in darkness. When you drag it into the light, when you face it, when you name it, it loses power. The number on that piece of paper was bad, but it was no longer unknown. And an enemy you can see is an enemy you can fight. If you're avoiding your finances right now, if there are bills you haven't opened, numbers you haven't looked at, debts you've been pretending don't exist, then I'm going to ask you to do something brave. Tonight, before you go to sleep, sit down and write it all out, every single thing. It will be uncomfortable, it might even be painful, but I promise you, on the other side of that pain is clarity, and clarity is the first step toward change. You can't fix what you refuse to face. Now, let me take you into the 4th trap, and this one is subtle. It creeps in slowly. You don't even notice it until it's reshaped your entire life. I call it the comfort cage. There's a moment in every person's financial life where they reach a level that's just enough to pay the bills, just enough to keep the lights on, just enough to eat, have a roof, and survive. Not thrive, not grow, just survive. And here's the dangerous part. That level of just enough becomes comfortable. Not comfortable like luxury, comfortable like familiar. Your body adapts to it, your mind adapts to it, your expectations adapt to it. And before you know it, you stop reaching for more. Not because you don't want more, but because the discomfort of reaching feels worse than the dull ache of staying.
I spent years in the comfort cage. I had a job that paid me enough. Not enough to build anything, not enough to save anything meaningful, but enough that I was not in crisis. And because I was not in crisis, there was no urgency to change. The fire was never hot enough to make me jump. So I just sat there, year after year, doing the same work, getting the same check, living the same life, telling myself, at least I am not struggling, as if the absence of misery was the same thing as the presence of a good life. It is not. There is a vast, vast distance between not struggling and truly living. And most people settle into not struggling and call it success. They call it stability. They call it being responsible. But deep down, late at night, in those quiet moments when there are no distractions, they know. They know this is not what they wanted. They know this is not what they dreamed of. They know there is a voice inside them whispering, there has to be more than this. But the walls of the comfort cage are padded with familiarity and routine, and climbing over them feels impossible. The escape from the comfort cage requires manufactured discomfort. You have to deliberately put yourself in situations that force you to grow. That might mean taking a course that challenges you. That might mean starting a side project that scares you. That might mean having a conversation with your boss about advancement that makes your palms sweat. That might mean waking up 2 hours earlier to work on something that will not pay you today, but could change your life in a year. Comfort is not your friend. Comfort is a cage with invisible bars, and every day you spend inside it is a day you will never get back. I escaped the cage when I was 37 years old. I quit a stable job to start something on my own. People called me crazy. My own family questioned me. For the first 6 months, I made less money than I had at my old job. I was terrified. I could not sleep. I questioned myself every single day. But that discomfort, that fear, that uncertainty, it woke something up in me that the comfort cage had put to sleep. Hunger, drive, creativity, problem solving. The parts of me that had been dormant for years came alive because they had to, because survival demanded it. And within 2 years, I was making 3 times what I had made at my old job. Not because I was smarter, not because I was more talented, but because I had finally stepped outside the cage and forced myself to grow. Now, I'm not telling you to quit your job tomorrow. I'm not reckless with other people's lives. What I am telling you is this. Look at your life right now and ask yourself, am I growing or am I just comfortable? If the answer is comfortable, then something needs to change. Something needs to shake you loose. Because the comfort cage does not kill you quickly, it kills you slowly. It kills your dreams, your ambition, your potential. One comfortable, predictable, safe day at a time. Let me pause here and ask you something, really ask you. When was the last time you did something that scared you financially? When was the last time you took a risk? When was the last time you bet on yourself? If it's been months or years, or if you can't even remember, then the cage has you. And recognizing that is the first step toward breaking free. Now, the 5th trap. This one will make some of you uncomfortable because it involves something you do every single day without thinking about it. I call it the identity anchor. Here's what I mean. You have a story about who you are with money. You might not have written it down, you might not even be fully aware of it, but it's there, running in the background like software, shaping every financial decision you make. Maybe your story sounds like this. I'm just not good with money. Or, my family was always broke, so that's just how it is. Or, rich people are greedy and I'm not like that. Or, money is not that important to me. Or, I'm the kind of person who lives paycheck to paycheck. Whatever your story is, I need you to understand something critical. That story is not the truth. It's a belief, and beliefs can be changed. I had a story about myself for the longest time. My story was that I was a hard worker, but not a smart worker. I believed that people like me, people from where I came from, could earn a living, but never build real wealth. Wealth was for other people. People who went to certain schools, people who knew certain people, people who had certain advantages that I did not have and never would. That story kept me poor for years. Not because it was true, but because I acted in accordance with it. When an opportunity came along that could have changed my financial life, I didn't take it. Not because I couldn't, but because my story told me it wasn't for me. When I had an idea that could have generated real income, I didn't pursue it, because my story said people like me don't do things like that. The story was an anchor, and it kept me tethered to the bottom no matter how hard the currents tried to move me. Changing your identity anchor is one of the hardest things you'll ever do, because it means letting go of a version of yourself that you've known for a long time.
It means admitting that the story you've been telling, the story that felt safe and familiar and true, was actually a lie. A lie you inherited from your parents, your environment, your past failures, your culture, the people around you. And lies, even comfortable ones, must be released if you want to be free. I changed my story one sentence at a time. I stopped saying I'm bad with money and started saying I'm learning to be better with money. I stopped saying wealth is not for people like me and started saying I'm becoming the kind of person who builds wealth. It felt ridiculous at first. It felt fake, like I was lying to myself. But here's what I learned. Every identity starts as a lie. Before you become something, you have to believe you can be it. And before you believe you can be it, you have to say it, even when it doesn't feel true yet. Over time, the new story became my reality. Not because I wished it into existence, but because the new story changed my actions. When I believed I could be good with money, I started reading about money. I started paying attention to where my dollars went. I started making decisions my old story would never have allowed. And slowly, dollar by dollar, decision by decision, my financial life transformed. So, what's your story? What do you believe about yourself and money? Say it out loud. Whatever came to your mind just now, whatever sentence you heard in your own voice, that's your identity anchor. And if it's holding you down, it's time to cut the chain. Now, the fifth trap. This one will make some of you uncomfortable because it involves something you do every single day without thinking about it. I call it the comparison quicksand. Here's what I mean. You have a story about who you are with money. You might not have written it down, you might not even be fully aware of it, but it's there, running in the background like software, shaping every financial decision you make. Maybe your story sounds like this. I'm just not good with money. Or, my family was always broke, so that's just how it is. Or, rich people are greedy and I'm not like that. Or, money is not that important to me. Or, I'm the kind of person who lives paycheck to paycheck. Whatever your story is, I need you to understand something critical. That story is not the truth. It's a belief, and beliefs can be changed. I had a story about myself for the longest time. My story was that I was a hard worker, but not a smart worker. I believed that people like me, people from where I came from, could earn a living, but never build real wealth. Wealth was for other people. People who went to certain schools, people who knew certain people, people who had certain advantages that I did not have and never would. That story kept me poor for years. Not because it was true, but because I acted in accordance with it. When an opportunity came along that could have changed my financial life, I didn't take it. Not because I couldn't, but because my story told me it wasn't for me. When I had an idea that could have generated real income, I didn't pursue it, because my story said people like me don't do things like that. The story was an anchor, and it kept me tethered to the bottom no matter how hard the currents tried to move me.
I upgraded things that did not need upgrading. I tried to close a gap that did not need to be closed because the gap was not real. The gap was a mirage created by comparing my behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. And within a year, I had erased most of the financial progress I had made. I was almost back to where I started because I had let comparison pull me under. Here is what I eventually understood, and I want you to write this down if you can. Other people's wealth is not your poverty. Someone else having more does not mean you have less. Wealth is not a pie with limited slices. Their success did not steal your success. Their house did not take your house. Their car did not drain your bank account. Your bank account was drained by your reaction to their car. The escape from this trap is brutal in its simplicity. You have to stop looking. You have to curate your inputs ruthlessly. If certain accounts on social media make you feel inadequate, unfollow them. Not out of jealousy, out of strategy, out of self-preservation. You are protecting your mind the same way you would protect your body. You would not keep eating food that made you sick. So why do you keep consuming content that makes you feel poor? And more than that, you have to build your own scoreboard. Stop measuring your progress against other people and start measuring it against your past self. Are you better off than you were a year ago? Are your habits stronger? Is your debt lower? Is your knowledge deeper? That is the only comparison that matters. You versus you. Yesterday versus today. Everything else is noise. Dangerous, expensive, soul-crushing noise. Every time I feel the pull of comparison now, and yes, it still happens, even at my age, I ask myself one question. Is this making me better or making me broke? And if the answer is broke, I put the phone down, I close the window, I walk away. Because I have paid the price of comparison before, and I refuse to pay it again. Now, the seventh and final trap. And I saved this one for last because it is the one that holds everything else together. If you understand this trap and escape it, every other trap becomes easier to see and easier to avoid. I call it the tomorrow lie. Tomorrow I will start budgeting. Tomorrow I will look at my debt. Tomorrow I will start that side project. Tomorrow I will have that hard conversation. Tomorrow I will change. Tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. Let me tell you something about tomorrow. Tomorrow is the most dangerous word in the English language for a person who is broke. Because tomorrow feels close. It feels like you're still going to do it. It gives you the illusion of intention without the burden of action. You go to bed feeling okay because you have a plan, but the plan always starts tomorrow. And when tomorrow comes, it becomes today, and today is hard, and today is busy, and today is not the right time, so you push it to tomorrow again, and again, and again, until weeks become months, and months become years, and years become a lifetime of tomorrows that never arrived. I wasted my entire 30s on the tomorrow lie. Every new year, I would tell myself, this is the year I get my finances together. Every Monday, I would tell myself, this is the week I start. Every morning, I would tell myself, today is the day. And every night, I would go to bed having done nothing, telling myself, okay, but definitely tomorrow. The lie felt harmless. It felt like procrastination, like a small, forgivable delay. But it was not small. It was catastrophic, because every day I delayed was a day of potential compound interest I lost. Every day I delayed was a day my debt grew larger, my habits grew deeper, my cage grew more familiar. 10 years of tomorrows cost me more money than I care to calculate, not because of one big mistake, but because of 10 years of doing nothing. The escape from this trap is not motivation. Motivation is unreliable. Motivation comes and goes like weather. The escape is decision, a real iron-willed, no-turning-back decision. Not I will try, not I will start soon, but I am starting now, right now, this minute, this second, before the feeling fades, before the excuses arrive, before tomorrow starts whispering again. The night I broke the tomorrow lie, I did something small. I did not overhaul my entire financial life in one evening. I opened one bill. That's it, one bill. I looked at it, I wrote down the amount, I put it on a list. It took 4 minutes, but those 4 minutes broke a pattern that had held me for a decade. Because once I did one thing, I could do another, and another, and another. Action creates momentum, and momentum is stronger than motivation will ever be. So here's what I want you to do. When this is over, not tomorrow, not next week, when this is over, do one thing. Open one bill, check one balance, write down one number, cancel one subscription, read one article about investing, make one small, imperfect, ugly step forward, because that one step will break the spell. That one step will prove to yourself that you are not the person who waits for tomorrow anymore. You are the person who starts today. Now, let me pull all of this together, because these 7 traps don't work alone. They work together. They overlap. They reinforce each other. They create a web so tight that most people never escape it. They together are a prison with no walls, no guards, no locks. A prison built entirely out of habits, beliefs, emotions, and lies. And the most terrifying part? Most of the inmates don't even know they're in prison. They think this is just life. They think this is normal. They think this is the way it has to be. But now you know. You know the traps. You can see them. You can name them. And a trap you can see is a trap you can avoid. Let me tell you one more story before I go, because I think you need to hear this. When I was at my lowest financially, I met a man. He was older than me at the time, maybe 60, 65. He was not wealthy in the way the world defines wealth. He didn't have a mansion or a sports car, but he had something I didn't have. He had peace. You could see it in his eyes, in the way he moved, in the way he spoke. There was no urgency, no anxiety, no desperation. He was free. I asked him once, "How did you do it? How did you get to this place where money doesn't control you?" And he said something I have never forgotten. He said, "I stopped letting my past decide my future. Every day I woke up and chose to be someone new. Not someone perfect, just someone a little better than the day before. I made 1,000 small choices. I said no when it was hard. I said yes when it was scary. I looked at things I didn't want to see. I gave up things I thought I needed. And one day I looked around and realized I was free. Not because anything magical happened, but because 1,000 small choices stacked on top of each other had built a life I was proud of. That man changed my life. Not with a strategy, not with a system, not with a hack or a shortcut, with honesty, with patience, with the simple, brutal, beautiful truth that change is built one choice at a time. And now I'm passing that same truth to you. You're not going to fix your financial life overnight. You're not going to watch this and wake up tomorrow as a different person. That's not how it works. But you can make one choice today that your future self will thank you for, and then another one tomorrow, and another the day after that. And if you keep making those choices, if you keep showing up, if you keep facing the traps and refusing to fall into them, then 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, you will be standing in a place you never thought possible. And you will look back at this moment, this exact moment, as the one where everything started to shift. But only if you act, only if you move, only if you refuse to let tomorrow steal one more day from you. I'm going to tell you something I don't say lightly. I'm proud of you for being here, for listening this long, for staying with me through things that were hard to hear. Most people run
from the truth. You sat with it. And that takes courage, real courage, the quiet kind that nobody sees and nobody applauds, but that changes everything. If this channel has given you something today, if even one sentence made you think differently, then do 2 things for me. Subscribe so that the next time life gets heavy and you need someone to tell you the truth, you know where to find it. And share this with one person you care about. One person who might be stuck in one of these traps. Because sometimes the thing that saves someone's life is not a grand gesture. It is a link, a conversation, a moment where someone says, "Hey, I heard something that made me think of you." You have that power. Use it. Now I want to leave you with this. There will come a day, and it comes for all of us, when you look back on your life and you will not count the things you bought.
You will not remember the brands you wore or the cars you drove or the phones you carried. You will remember the moments of peace, the moments of freedom, the mornings you woke up without dread, the nights you slept without worry, the feeling of knowing that you chose a harder path because you knew it led somewhere better. Money is not the goal. Freedom is the goal. Peace is the goal. And money, handled wisely, is the tool that builds both. You came into this world with nothing, and one day you will leave it the same way. But between those two moments, you have the power to build something extraordinary. Not for the world, for yourself, for your family, for the future you that is counting on the present you to make the right choices. So make them. Start today. Start now. Start small if you have to, but start. Because one day, life will ask you what you did with the time you were given, and I want you to have an answer that makes your soul proud. This is Elder Kael, and I will be here when you need me again. Go build the life you deserve. But wait, do not leave yet, because I am not done with you. I know what you are thinking. You were thinking, okay, Elder Kael, I hear you. 7 traps, I get it. But knowing the traps is only half the battle. The other half, the half that actually changes your bank account, your stress level, your future, is knowing what to do once you have climbed out. So sit back down, we are not finished. Because now, I am going to tell you what nobody told me, the things I had to learn through years of pain, mistakes, and sleepless nights, the principles that actually build wealth when you are starting from nothing. Not theory, not textbook nonsense. Real, lived, battle-tested truth from a man who clawed his way up from the bottom with bleeding fingers and a stubborn heart. The first principle is one that will sound backwards. It will sound wrong. It might even make you angry, but I need you to hear it. Stop trying to make more money. I know what you were thinking. Elder Kael, you just spent the last 30 minutes telling me I'm broke, and now you're telling me not to make more money? Are you out of your mind? No, I'm not. Listen carefully. Most broke people believe that their problem is income. They think, if I just made more money, everything would be fine. If I got a better job, a raise, a promotion, a side hustle that paid well, all my problems would disappear. And that belief, that deeply held conviction that more money is the answer, is one of the most dangerous financial illusions that exists. I have known people who made $200,000 a year and were broke. I'm not exaggerating. I sat across the table from a man who earned more in a month than I used to earn in a year, and he could not cover a $1,500 emergency. He drove a luxury car he could barely afford the payments on. He lived in a house that was draining him dry. He wore a watch that cost more than some people's annual salary. And behind all of that, behind the polished exterior and the impressive job title, he was drowning, quietly, desperately, completely drowning. More money did not save him. More money made things worse. Because more money without the wisdom to manage it is like giving a faster car to someone who doesn't know how to drive. You don't go further, you just crash harder. So before you chase more income, before you take on a second job or start a side hustle or beg for a raise, you need to master what you already have. You need to become dangerous with the money you are already earning. And by dangerous, I mean disciplined, intentional, strategic, aware of every single dollar that comes in and every single dollar that goes out. I learned this lesson the hard way. There was a period in my life where I was working 2 jobs. I was exhausted. I was running on caffeine and willpower. I was grinding 14, 15, 16 hours a day because I believed that the answer to my financial problems was simply more hours, more work, more hustle. And at the end of that year, after all that sacrifice, after all that exhaustion, after missing birthdays and holidays and quiet evenings with people I loved, I had almost nothing to show for it.
because I was earning more, but I was also spending more. I was eating out because I was too tired to cook. I was spending money to recover from the stress of making money. It was a cycle that fed itself, and I was the one being consumed. The day I stopped chasing more income and started respecting the income I had was the day everything changed. I sat down with a notebook, a real physical notebook, and for the next 30 days wrote down every single thing I spent money on. Don't judge it, don't change anything yet, just observe. Watch where your money goes with the same attention you would give to watching a stranger in your house. Because right now, your money is leaving and you don't even know where it's going. That 30-day exercise will open your eyes in ways that no financial book, no guru, no motivational video ever could. Because it will show you your own truth. And your own truth is the only truth that matters. Now, the second principle, and this one requires patience, real patience, the kind of patience that this world doesn't teach you anymore. I call it the art of boring wealth. We live in a world that has made money exciting. Social media is full of people flashing cash, flipping houses in a weekend, making millions from cryptocurrency overnight, turning $100 into $100,000 with some secret system. And all of that noise, all of that flashy, exciting, look how fast I got rich content has poisoned your mind. It has made you believe that
Wealth is supposed to be exciting, that building money is supposed to feel like a roller coaster, that if you are not seeing massive results fast, you are doing something wrong. That is a lie, a loud, glittering, dangerous lie. Real wealth is boring. I need you to hear that. Let it sink in. Real, lasting, unshakable wealth is boring. It is built slowly. It is built quietly. It is built through small, consistent, unsexy actions repeated over months and years and decades. It is putting $50 a month into an investment account and not touching it. It is paying off debt one payment at a time, watching the number go down by tiny amounts, resisting the urge to give up because it feels like it is taking forever. It is saying no to things you want today because you are building something you need tomorrow. It is choosing the reliable path over the exciting one, the proven strategy over the shiny shortcut, the turtle over the hare every single time. I know that is not what you want to hear. I know you want me to give you a secret, a hack, a shortcut that nobody else knows about. I know you want the exciting version, but I would rather disappoint you with the truth than comfort you with a lie. I built my wealth the boring way. And I am not ashamed to say that. I invested small amounts consistently for years. I paid off debts in order of interest rate, starting with the highest, grinding through them one at a time. I kept my lifestyle below my means, even when I could have afforded more. I said no to vacations I wanted because the money had a more important job to do. I drove a car that was older than some of my friends' children because it was paid off and it ran fine, and I refused to take on a car payment just to impress people who were not paying my bills. None of that was exciting. None of that would have gone viral on social media. Nobody would have watched a video of me packing my lunch and driving a 12-year-old car and putting money into an index fund. But that boring, invisible, unglamorous process is what built the foundation of financial freedom that I stand on today. And here's the beautiful irony. The people who chased the exciting path, the get-rich-quick schemes, the hot stock tips, the too-good-to-be-true investments, most of them are worse off than when they started, because the exciting path is almost always a trap. It is designed to separate you from your money, not help you build it. The person selling you the system is the one getting rich, not you. Choose boring. Choose slow. Choose consistent. I promise you it works. It just takes longer than you want it to. And that's okay, because you are not building something for this weekend. You are building something for the rest of your life. If you are still listening, and I mean truly listening, then what I'm about to say next might be the most practical thing you hear all day. The third principle, and I wish someone had beaten this into my head when I was 20 years old. Learn the difference between assets and liabilities. And I do not mean the textbook definitions, I mean the real street-level practical difference. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. That's it. That's the entire definition. Simple enough for a child to understand, and yet most adults get it completely, catastrophically wrong. Your house, is it an asset or a liability? Most people say asset, and in certain situations they might be right. But if you are living in it, if you are paying a mortgage on it, if you are paying property taxes and insurance and maintenance and repairs, then right now, today, it is a liability. It is taking money out of your pocket every single month. It might become an asset when you sell it for more than you paid for it. It might be an asset if you rent part of it out. But as long as it is costing you money to own, it is functioning as a liability in your life. That does not mean don't buy a house. It means understand what you are buying. Your car, asset or liability? Liability, without question. It loses value the moment you drive it off the lot. It costs you gas, insurance, maintenance, registration, parking. It takes money from you every single day you own it. And the more expensive the car, the more it takes. That shiny new car you're dreaming about, it's not a symbol of success. It's a drain disguised as a status symbol. That streaming subscription, that gym membership you don't use, that storage unit full of things you forgot you owned, those are all liabilities. Small ones maybe, but they add up, and they never stop taking. Here's what I started doing when I understood this principle. Before I spent money on anything, I asked myself one question: will this put money in my pocket or take money out? If the answer was take money out, I then asked a second question: is this absolutely necessary? Not do I want it, not would it be nice, is it necessary? And if the answer was no, I didn't buy it. Simple, brutal, effective. And the money I saved by not buying liabilities, I put toward buying assets, small ones at first, a book that taught me a skill, an online course that improved my earning potential, eventually small investments, then larger ones. Each asset was a tiny worker going out into the world and bringing money back to me. And over time, those tiny workers multiplied. They brought in enough money to buy more assets, and those assets brought in more money, and on and on and on in a cycle that built wealth instead of destroying it. That's the secret that separates wealthy people from broke people. It's not about how much money you make, it's about what you do with the money you make. Wealthy people buy assets, broke people buy liabilities, and the gap grows wider every single year because assets grow and liabilities drain. You do not need to understand complicated finance. You do not need a degree in economics. You just need to answer one question before every purchase. Does this put money in my pocket or take money out? Start there. That one question, honestly answered, will change the entire trajectory of your financial life. I want to pause here for a moment because I know that some of you listening right now are in a dark place. I know that some of you are not just broke, you're desperate. You're wondering how you're going to make it through this month. You're wondering if things will ever change. You're carrying a weight that feels like it is going to crush you. And hearing someone talk about buying assets and investing and building wealth might feel like it's a million miles away from where you are right now. I want you to know that I see you. I have been you. I have stood exactly where you are standing, with the same fear, the same doubt, the same crushing pressure. And I want you to know that where you are right now is not where you will always be. It feels permanent. I know it does. When you're in the middle of the storm, it feels like the storm will never end. But storms always end. Always. And the fact that you are here, listening, searching for answers, fighting for something better, that tells me the storm has not broken you. You are still standing, bruised maybe, tired, absolutely, but standing. And that's enough.
That's more than enough, because change does not require perfection. It does not require some massive, dramatic transformation overnight. It requires one small step, then another, and before you know it, those steps have carried you somewhere you never thought you could reach. So don't give up. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Because the version of you that makes it through this, the version of you that claws their way out of this hole and builds something real, that version of you is going to be unstoppable. Not because they had it easy, but because they had it hard and they kept going anyway. If this is resonating with you right now, truly resonating in a way that feels different from anything you have heard before, then I need you to subscribe to this channel. Not because I need your subscription, because you need a place to come back to. You need a voice that will tell you the truth when the world is trying to sell you lies. You need a reminder on your worst days that someone out there believes in you, even when you can't believe in yourself. That's what this channel is. That's what I'm here for. Now, let me take you deeper, because there is one more area we need to cover, and most people never think about it when they think about money, but it might be the most important area of all: your environment. I'm not talking about where you live, although that matters. I'm talking about who you surround yourself with, the people you spend the most time with, the conversations you have, the energy you absorb, the expectations that surround you like air.
There is a truth that uncomfortable people try to avoid. You will become the average of the people you spend the most time with. Not the best of them, not the worst of them, the average. Their habits will become your habits. Their beliefs will become your beliefs. Their financial temperature will become your financial temperature. Not because you are weak, because you are human. And humans are social creatures who unconsciously absorb the norms of their tribe. I learned this in my late 20s, and it nearly destroyed me to admit it. I loved my friends. I truly did. They were good people, kind people, people who had my back. But when it came to money, every single one of them was in the same place I was: broke, living paycheck to paycheck, spending everything they earned, complaining about money but never doing anything about it. And when we got together, which was often, we reinforced each other's habits. We went out to eat. We went to bars. We spent money we did not have on experiences we could not afford. And nobody ever questioned it because nobody in the group had a different standard. If I brought up saving money, they would laugh. Not cruelly, just dismissively, like it was cute but unrealistic. If I mentioned investing, they would change the subject. If I suggested doing something free instead of something expensive, I could feel the subtle pressure to just go along, to be normal, to not be the weird one who suddenly cares about money. And so I went along, for years, because belonging felt more important than building, because the warmth of the group felt more urgent than the cold, lonely work of financial discipline. But here's what I eventually realized. That belonging was costing me my future. The warmth of the group was a fire that was slowly burning down my financial house. And the moment I recognized that, I had to make one of the hardest decisions of my life. I did not abandon my friends. I want to be clear about that. I did not cut people off coldly or cruelly, but I changed how much time I spent with them. And more importantly, I actively sought out people who were where I wanted to be financially. People who talked about money differently. People who had savings, investments, goals, plans. People who made me feel slightly uncomfortable because their standards were higher than mine. That discomfort, the discomfort of being the least financially disciplined person in a new circle, was one of the most valuable experiences of my life because it raised my temperature. It shifted my normal. Suddenly, saving money was not weird, it was expected. Investing was not some distant concept, it was dinner table conversation. Living below your means was not something to be embarrassed about, it was a badge of honor. I did not become wealthy just because I changed my circle, but changing my circle changed my habits, and my habits changed my finances, and my finances changed my life. The chain is clear. Environment shapes habits. Habits shape outcomes. Outcomes shape your life. So, look around you right now. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? What are their financial habits? What are their attitudes toward money? Are they building or are they burning? Are they growing or are they stagnant? Are they pulling you up or holding you in place? I am not asking you to judge them. I am asking you to be honest with yourself about the influence they have on you. Because if you are surrounded by people who are comfortable being broke, you will stay comfortable being broke. That is not a theory. That is a law of human behavior as reliable as gravity. Now, I want to talk about something that ties directly into your environment, and it's something most financial advice completely ignores: the way you talk about money. The actual words you use, the phrases you repeat without thinking, the casual, throwaway comments that seem harmless but are slowly, quietly programming your brain to accept poverty as your destiny. I'm broke. I can't afford that. Money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are lucky. I'll never be able to afford that. Easy come, easy go. Money is the root of all evil. How many of those have you said in the last month? How many of those have you heard growing up? How many of those are so deeply embedded in your vocabulary that you say them without even realizing it? Every one of those phrases is a tiny instruction to your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind is obedient. It does not argue, it does not question. It simply takes your words as commands and arranges your reality accordingly. When you say, "I'm broke," your subconscious mind hears, "This is my identity," and works to maintain that identity. When you say, "I can't afford that," your mind stops looking for ways to afford it. When you say, "Money is the root of all evil," your mind creates resistance to money, because who wants to attract evil? I'm not talking about magic. I'm not telling you to chant affirmations in front of a mirror and expect cash to rain from the sky. I am talking about the practical, documented neurological reality that the language you use shapes the way you think, and the way you think shapes the actions you take, and the actions you take shape the life you live. This is not mystical. This is mechanical. I changed my language slowly, deliberately. It felt awkward and forced at first. Instead of saying, "I can't afford that," I started saying, "How can I afford that?" Instead of "I'm broke," I said, "I'm building." Instead of "Money doesn't grow on trees," I said, "Money flows to those who respect it." Small shifts, tiny rewrites of scripts I had been reciting my entire life. And over time, those small shifts rewired something in me. I started seeing opportunities I had been blind to. I started taking actions I would have avoided before. Not because the words had magical power, but because the words changed my focus. And focus determines everything. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. If your attention is always on how broke you are, your energy will maintain that state. If your attention shifts to how you can build, your energy will follow. Watch your words. They are not just sounds, they are seeds. And whatever you plant in the garden of your mind will eventually bloom in the garden of your life. So be very, very careful what you are planting. Let me take you to another critical area now, and I need you to pay close attention to this because it is where most people sabotage themselves without even knowing it. Emotional spending. You've had a bad day. You're stressed. You're angry. You're sad. You're lonely. You're bored. And in that emotional state, you reach for your wallet. Not because you need something, but because buying something feels good. It gives you a hit of dopamine, a brief, sweet burst of pleasure that takes the edge off whatever you're feeling. A new pair of shoes, a meal you didn't need, something from an online store that arrives at your door 3 days later and you barely remember ordering it. That pattern,
That cycle of feel bad, then spend money to feel better is one of the most destructive financial habits in existence. And it's everywhere. It's so common that entire industries are built around it. Advertising doesn't sell you products, advertising sells you feelings. It identifies your emotional pain points, your insecurities, your desires, your loneliness, your boredom, and then it offers you a product as the solution. You're not buying a jacket, you're buying the feeling of being attractive. You're not buying a meal out, you're buying the feeling of deserving something nice. You're not buying a gadget, you're buying the feeling of being modern, capable, relevant. And every single time you buy a feeling, you pay for it twice. Once with the money you spend, and again with the regret, the guilt, the tightening of your budget that follows. I was an emotional spender for most of my adult life. My trigger was stress. When I was stressed, which was often because I was broke, which is deeply ironic when you think about it, I would buy things. Nothing extravagant, a new book I would never read, a tool I didn't need, a takeout meal instead of cooking what was already in my refrigerator. Each purchase was small, insignificant in isolation, but stress was a daily visitor, and so the purchases were daily too. And daily purchases, even small ones, become monthly hemorrhages, and monthly hemorrhages become annual catastrophes. The day I recognized the pattern was the day I started to break it. I did something simple but powerful. I put a note on my debit card, a small piece of tape with 3 words written on it. Is this necessary? Every time I pulled that card out to buy something, I saw those words, and most of the time, the answer was no. It was emotional. It was reactive. It was me trying to buy a feeling that would last 20 minutes and cost me $20. And $20 might not sound like much.
But $20 a day is $600 a month, and $600 a month is over $7,000 a year. $7,000 a year that I was literally spending on feelings, on temporary, fleeting, already forgotten feelings. When I stopped, when I found other ways to handle my emotions, ways that did not cost money, like walking, like writing, like sitting in silence and actually feeling what I was feeling instead of running from it, my financial life improved almost immediately. Not because I earned more, because I stopped bleeding. So I ask you now, what is your trigger? What emotion sends you reaching for your wallet? Is it stress, sadness, boredom, loneliness, anger? Identify it, name it, because the moment you name it, you can see it coming. And the moment you see it coming, you can choose a different response. You can choose to sit with the feeling instead of spending it away. You can choose to walk around the block instead of walking into a store. You can choose to call someone instead of scrolling through an online shop. You can choose, and that choice, repeated daily, will save you thousands of dollars and, more importantly, will teach you that you do not need to buy your way to happiness. Happiness cannot be purchased, it can only be built, and you build it with discipline, with purpose, with meaningful work, with honest relationships, with the quiet pride of knowing you are becoming someone better today than you were yesterday. Let me take you even deeper now. There is something I need to tell you that might sting, but I would rather sting you with the truth than soothe you with a lie. Some of you are broke because you are afraid of money. Not afraid of not having it, afraid of having it, afraid of what it would mean, afraid of what it would change, afraid of how it would alter your relationships, your identity, your place in the world. And that fear, buried deep beneath the surface, is sabotaging every effort you make to build wealth. This sounds crazy, I know it does. Why would anyone be afraid of having money? But think about it, really think. If you suddenly had real money, significant money, what would change? Your family might treat you differently. People might ask you for things. Friends might become jealous. You might feel guilty because people you care about are still struggling. You might feel like you do not deserve it. You might feel like a fraud. You might worry that you would lose it all and the fall would be worse than never having risen at all. All of those fears are real. I know because I had every single one of them. When my financial situation first started to improve genuinely, not just a good month, but a real, sustained improvement, I was terrified. I felt guilty. I felt like I was betraying my roots, like I was becoming one of them, whoever them was. I had this deep, irrational fear that the moment I had money, I would lose the things that actually mattered: my relationships, my authenticity, my connection to where I came from. And that fear made me do something incredible. It made me self-sabotage. I would build up savings and then find a reason to drain them. I would start a project that was making money and then abandon it. I would take one step forward and then, unconsciously, without even understanding why, take 2 steps back, because the back felt safe. The back felt familiar. The back was where I knew the rules, even if the rules hurt me. If you have ever found yourself on the verge of financial progress and then somehow falling back, if you have ever been so close to a breakthrough and then watched it slip through your fingers, if you have ever wondered why you keep ending up in the same financial position no matter what you try, then this might be your answer. You might be afraid of money, not at the surface, at the root. And until you dig up that root, nothing above the surface will grow. The way I dug up my root was through honesty, brutal, painful, embarrassing honesty with myself. I sat down and I asked myself, what do I really believe will happen if I become wealthy? And I let the answers come without filtering them, without judging them, without pretending they were rational. And the answers that came up were shocking. I believed my family would resent me. I believed my old friends would think I had changed. I believed that wealthy people were somehow less authentic, less real, less human than broke people. I believed that I did not deserve comfort because my parents never had it. Those beliefs were running my financial life, not my budget, not my income, not my skills, my beliefs. And until I confronted them, until I held them up to the light and examined them, they had absolute, unchallenged power over every financial decision I made. I did not overcome them in a day. I overcame them over years, through conversations, through reading, through meeting wealthy people who were generous, kind, authentic, and deeply human, through slowly, carefully replacing old beliefs with new ones, through giving myself permission to be both successful and good, because that was the false choice I had been carrying. The belief that you could be successful or good, wealthy or authentic, rich or real, but not both. That belief was a lie inherited from a culture that romanticizes poverty and demonizes wealth, a lie that keeps good people broke and lets them feel noble about it. You are allowed to have money. You are allowed to build wealth. You are allowed to live without financial stress. You are allowed to be comfortable. You are allowed to be prosperous and still be a good, loving, generous, authentic human being. Those things are not opposites, they are partners, and giving yourself permission to have both is one of the most important financial decisions you will ever make. Now I want to address something practical, something you can start using immediately, because I have given you a lot to think about, a lot to feel, and now I want to give you something to do. I call it the 72-hour wealth ritual. And before you roll your eyes at the word ritual, let me explain. This is not spiritual. This is strategic. It's a simple set of actions you perform once every 72 hours, 3 days, that will transform your relationship with money faster than anything else I know. Here's how it works.
Every 3 days, you sit down for 15 minutes, just 15 minutes, and you do 3 things. First, you review your spending for the last 3 days, every single transaction. You do not judge it, you simply observe. You look at where your money went. You notice patterns, you notice triggers, you notice leaks. This takes 5 minutes. Second, you check your financial goal, whatever it is, paying off a specific debt, building a savings cushion, reaching a certain number in your account. You look at where you are in relation to that goal. You measure the gap. You notice whether it's shrinking or growing. This takes 3 minutes. And third, and this is the part most people skip, but it's the most important, you write 1 sentence about how you want to feel about money. Not a goal, not a number, a feeling. Something like, I want to feel calm when I check my bank account, or I want to feel proud of how I handle my finances, or I want to be free from the anxiety of not having enough. You write that sentence down. You read it once. You let it settle into your mind. This takes 2 minutes. 15 minutes every 3 days. That's all. But here's what happens when you do this consistently. You develop financial awareness, real awareness, not the vague, generalized sense that you should probably be better with money, but a sharp, detailed, honest understanding of exactly where you are, where you're going, and how you feel about the journey. That awareness changes your behavior automatically. You start catching yourself before you overspend. You start feeling the emotional pull towards unnecessary purchases and recognizing it for what it is. You start making better decisions, not because you're forcing yourself, but because you see clearly. And when you see clearly, good decisions become obvious. I started the 72-hour wealth ritual when I was 39. Within 3 months, I had identified and eliminated over $400 a month in unnecessary spending, not through deprivation, through awareness. I didn't feel like I was sacrificing anything. I simply stopped spending money on things I didn't truly care about, things I had been buying on autopilot, out of habit, out of emotional reaction, out of sheer unconsciousness. Try it, just for 30 days, 10 sessions of 15 minutes, 2.5 hours total over an entire month. And if it doesn't change the way you think about and handle money, then you have lost nothing but 2.5 hours. But I can tell you right now, from the deepest place of honesty I have in me, those 2.5 hours will return more to you than almost anything else you...
Patience. I know, not the exciting word you were hoping to end on, not the dramatic revelation, not the mind-blowing secret. Patience, the oldest, most boring, most underrated virtue in the entire history of human wisdom. But I am ending on this for a reason. Because everything I have told you today, every trap, every principle, every strategy, every truth requires patience. And patience is the one thing our modern world is systematically destroying. We live in an era of instant everything. Instant food, instant entertainment, instant communication, instant answers to any question you can think of. Your brain has been trained to expect immediate results. And when you apply that expectation to building wealth, you will fail every time. Because wealth does not respond to urgency. Wealth responds to consistency. Wealth does not care about your timeline. Wealth cares about your discipline. I had to learn patience the way most people learn it, through having no other choice. There were years, literal years, where I was doing everything right, and it felt like nothing was changing. I was saving, I was investing, I was cutting expenses, I was learning, I was growing, and my bank account barely moved. The progress was so slow it was almost invisible, and the temptation to quit, to go back to old habits, to tell myself this is not working, was overwhelming. But I kept going, not because I had faith, not because I was motivated, because I had made a decision. And decisions, unlike motivation, do not fluctuate. A decision is a line in the sand. A decision is a promise to yourself that you honor even when you do not feel like honoring it. I decided to build wealth, and so I kept going. Through the slow months, through the discouraging months, through the months where I wanted to throw my notebook across the room and give up. And then one day, I do not remember the exact day, but I remember the feeling. I looked at my finances, and something had shifted. Not dramatically, not overnight, but unmistakably. The numbers were different. The stress was lower. The fear was quieter. The freedom was beginning to emerge. Like a sunrise. Not sudden, gradual, but real and unstoppable. That is what patience gives you. Not instant results, inevitable results. Not fast change, permanent change. Not the thrill of a quick win, the deep, unshakable foundation of a life built with intention, discipline, and time. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with the process. Be patient with the fact that every day will not feel like progress. Some days will feel like you are going backwards. Some days will feel pointless. But every day that you show up, every day that you make one good decision, every day that you choose discipline over impulse and awareness over avoidance is a brick in the wall of the life you are building. And one day, you will step back and see the wall, and it will be magnificent. I have lived a long life. I have made every mistake you are afraid of making and 100 you have never imagined. I have been so broke that I could taste it, that metallic, bitter taste of having nothing and no idea how to get something. And I have been fortunate enough to reach a place where money is no longer my master. It is my tool. I did not get here because I was special. I got here because I refused to stay where I was, because I listened when the truth was hard, because I acted when action was uncomfortable, because I was patient when patience felt impossible, because I made one small choice at a time until 1,000 small choices became a completely different life. And you can do the same, starting right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when the timing is right. Right now, in this moment, with whatever you have, wherever you are. Before I go, let me ask you to do one final thing. Subscribe to this channel. Not because I am asking you to, because the person you are becoming needs a place to return to, a place where the truth is spoken without apology, without filters, without the noise and flash and empty promises that fill up every other corner of the internet. This is that place. And I will be here every time you come back with something real to give you. Now, here's my final thought, and I want you to carry this with you. Every rich person you have ever admired was once exactly where you are right now. Scared, uncertain, overwhelmed, broke, staring at a mountain they did not know how to climb. The only difference between them and the person who stayed at the bottom is that they took a step, one step, then another. Then another. They did not wait for the fear to leave. They walked with it. They did not wait for the path to become clear. They walked into the fog. They did not wait until they were ready. They started before they were ready and became ready along the way. You have spent your whole life waiting for something to change, for someone to give you the answer, for the right moment, for the stars to align. But the stars do not align for people who stand still. The stars align for people who move. So move, one step, $1, one decision, one day at a time. You are not too old, you are not too broke, you are not too far behind. You are not too anything. You are exactly where you need to be to start becoming who you were always meant to be. One day, not so long from now, someone will ask you how you did it. How you changed your life, how you went from where you were to where you are. And when that day comes, I want you to smile, and I want you to say, I stopped waiting. I stopped making excuses. I stopped falling into the same traps, and I started building, slowly, patiently, one brick at a time. And then I want them to send here, so they can start their journey too. This is Elder Kael. And I believe in you more than you believe in yourself right now. But that's okay. Borrow my belief until yours grows strong enough to carry you on its own.
Go, build, and never ever stop. One day, life will ask you what you did with the time you were given. Make sure your answer shakes the walls.